everybody, and welcome to the podcast that is yet to be named. Uh, we got. If you're on YouTube, finally got that video going for you guys. No, just an hour of the same picture for forever.
Yep.
So,
forever. Yeah.
yeah, we're looking to hopefully have some good content for you guys. Might be a little bit more engaging. So today we're gonna be talking. It's gonna be an all anime episode. We're going to be talking about JJK, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, and the first half of Attack on Titan, the final season.
Yep.
So with that, follow us on Instagram, everything. Look out for updates. Hope we're getting the name. We have some new ideas, so we're
brainstorming still. We're taking a lot longer than most. Probably trying to come up with a name and branding and everything for it, but I mean, hey, good things come with time. So
yep. So yeah, we'll get that going for you guys, hopefully at some point. And with that, I suppose we can start it off.
Yeah, let's start with JJK first.
Yeah.
We'll start with that. First season just ended this past Friday. 24 episodes long. Overall, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it's a standard shonen.
Yeah, I personally think that it's very, very, at least in its current state, and to be clear, Jacob and I were anime only with JJK. We don't know anything that happens later on. We know that the tone of it is dark and everything, but other than that, we don't know much. So, I would say that, with what I've currently seen of the show, it's pretty average to me. Let's see, because I think that the pacing at the very beginning wasn't that good.
It was a bit on the slower end. That's
I thought it was actually a little bit fast.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought it was quite like slow. Now obviously like every shonen is that they really dive into it immediately, but then once at least I felt like it took up until about episode 8 to really establish what was there, like the multiple bad guys, a part of whatever the group that is, and all of the different people that work at the school, and then eventually, they introduced the Kyoto school too, so that's just like even more characters that you have to essentially keep track of.
Yeah, which a lot of them I'm just kind of like, okay, I remember your face.
Yeah.
I remember like one ability that you have. And that's about it. I don't remember your name. I don't really remember much about you. I mean, like, some of the characters are very, very memorable compared to others. Like, like the panda.
Yes,
super
Panda.
easy.
Panda. Yeah,
like,
you recognize him instantly, and you know what he's all about.
Yeah, or I don't even remember the dude's name, but just the my brother
Toto.
guy. Yeah, Toto. Yes. Yeah, he's a G. You gotta like him.
Yeah. But then, of course, you always remember, like, Gojo, Megumi, Nobara, and Itadori. You have to know those. Those are the main people that it's focused on.
Yeah. But even them, like, they're...
even Nanami. I really liked Nanami, the guy with, like, the glasses and the sword and everything.
Yeah, but still, like, I don't think any of the characters are that unique where I'm currently at. I think there's a lot of... I think they're very...
See, it's funny that you say that, too, because they're actually, like, based on older animes. Like, for example, the style, at least, and most people, if you watch Naruto, you could easily tell this. Like, Gojo is like Kakashi, Itadori is like Naruto, Megumi's exactly like Sasuke, and Nobara's just, in my opinion, a better version of Sakura. But, like, that is intentionally, like, the mangaka actually did that on purpose.
Yeah.
And even the storyline is mirrored after Bleach. It's like this is like that was like the purpose of it.
So I mean, it's basically like, the way I can see it going, it's sort of like a dark version of all these shows.
Yes.
Which definitely has a lot of potential. I feel like as it gets even darker, that will really start to show, like, and really start to kind of just be, I guess, like, really become a great show overall. Yeah. But where it's currently at, I think until like the last couple episodes of this season, the tone was a lot more like, I guess like
lighthearted,
the stupid side of
comical.
shonen.
Yes, yeah.
Like you have a lot of that. How should I put it? Kind of like jokes, just jokes, really. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
jokes, bonding essentially between the characters. Like,
yeah,
like I've noticed too, character dynamics plays a big role in it, and you can tell with Itadori how he kind of adapts to be able to work with everyone,
yeah,
and I don't know, he's just a very adaptable, malleable person to work with. I noticed that throughout watching the series. I mean, he worked with Nanami really well instantly. Megumi, Todo, like he just works well, and Nobara
yeah,
at the end. He just was very adaptable. The character dynamics are very important. How each character interacts with one another, very important. It says something about not only their character, but just kind of the plot, I guess, and the way it seems to be pushing, and who's going to play a role, and who's still going to be there, who'll do their part, and who's really just going to be on the side.
yeah. Which yeah, I mean, this is one of those shows where I really feel like there's nothing that I can say that's like overly critical, but but I also don't feel like there's anything I can say like in its current state that's overly amazing either.
Yeah.
I think I think without, because I had problems with the pacing early on, but beyond that, I think where it's currently at, it's very kind of just average shonen.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking before I had seen the most recent arc, which, you know, was the bridge arc, you know, everything, 3 episodes. That one was a lot better, I thought. I mean, first of all, it developed the characters a little bit more. You know, it really started to get into like what their thoughts are, like what struggles they're having mentally.
Yeah.
And of course, like the action throughout is great.
Oh, the action throughout the whole show was really good.
Yes. So it's very, yeah, I'd say that for me it's including the final arc, I'd say it's about slightly above average.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah. I'd say with the potential that it has, and essentially with the seeds they planted, I agree with you. I'd probably agree with you. I'd probably put it a bit higher than you. But, like, for example, like curse abilities, they never really dove deep on, like, the origins of who got what power from what. And I even looked up a video on it because I was interested, is that there's different kinds of curse abilities. Like, each clan has a different ability, like clan's ability, like a family ability that like you can essentially be born with. Like the guy from the Kyoto school, I always forget his name, the one who used the bow, with, like the tracking arrows, and with his eye, and who could like manipulate blood.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
I forget his name, but like that was a clan ability, and they did mention this in the anime that he was essentially a bastard of like his father, who was going to be like the next leader of the clan or whatever, but because he had a bastard, he was kicked out, and then like his son is next up in line, but he was essentially meant to be the heir now because he was actually had that ability. The whole reason why he was accepted in the Zenin clan, which is one of the big clans, like Mai, Maki, Megumi are all a part of that clan, so they're all related in some way. I don't know how closely related, but they are related. But yeah, it's just super interesting. But then there's innate abilities like Nanami and Nobara's abilities. So like the 3/7 or whatever it was, where like that's like the weak point that like that Nanami can do, and Nobara's nail and straw doll. Those are all innate. They can only perform those abilities. No one else can possibly ever, unless I guess it could become a family ability, like if that's how it works. And like I don't know if that's how it works or not. But they didn't dive deep in much. Like Gojo, are his abilities innate or family? Obviously, if you're a manga reader, you probably know the answer to that question. But like I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, which is I'd say probably the biggest fault of the show is that it has a massive cast.
Yes.
And there's a lot of questions with everybody. Like I can tell.
But I think they did it on purpose.
Yeah, but I think like I don't think that they do it as well as a show. I mean, we'll compare it to Attack on Titan, where like the first season of that, there is a massive cast. There's a lot of characters that you get introduced to, but the only ones that you know a lot about at the time are the ones that are really relevant to the plot. So
Yeah.
like season 1, you know a lot about like Eren, Mikasa, Armin, uh, that you learn more about Annie as that gets involved and everything. But like you don't know too much about like Ymir, for instance, because she's not really that relevant to that part of the plot.
See,
But then in season 2, like once they become more relevant, then
then you learn
them.
about them. But that's how Attack on Titan's plot works.
Well, I know, but
that's how they revolve their plot. When, for example, if you were to watch Naruto or any extremely long term anime, that's how they're not built like that.
but JJK isn't going to be a long term. I mean, I think they're ending it with like 143 chapters. That's only a little bit longer than what Attack on Titan is. And
But I would say though, is that they're just, I don't know, they're like, basically if you were to look at Attack on Titan when it first came out, it was a shonen, right?
Yeah.
Now I wouldn't call it a shonen.
No, I wouldn't.
You
either.
could make that argument, but it's not. Shonens are built like JJK, Naruto. They generally start the same.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, just making the comparison. Like, when you have,
But I wouldn't even say it's fair to compare it to
well,
Attack on Titan.
I'm not even talking about like within a genre. I'm just saying, like, in general, when you have,
I wouldn't even say in general. I still think they're on two completely different planes.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, like, when you have a lot of characters, I feel like it's better to not try to introduce all of them equally when only a few of them are like that important at
Or
that
at least
time.
relevant.
Like-
I get that part.
Like, it would be like, for instance, you look at the whole Sister School event in JJK. Like, every episode is there to sort of introduce you to the characters, like the side characters. Like, you have a whole thing dedicated to like the robot dude and Panda fighting, for instance.
Yeah.
And like you learn a little bit more about what's going on with the two of them, but you still don't learn that much. So it kind of like you're trying to remember these details when like they really don't do that much in the show.
Or at least as of right now, they don't do that much
Yeah.
to the show.
So like in season 2, like I wouldn't mind if like they introduce Panda, maybe like show he has some cool abilities, stuff like
Yeah.
that, like the gorilla mode stuff.
Yeah.
But then they don't go too far into him, and then in season 2, if he's like super important, then they start developing him a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like I just think that that's a better way to go about getting that goal. Like when you have a big cast, that like maybe it's not fair to compare Attack on Titan to that, but I think in general, if you're telling a story, that's a better way to go about it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's just not how it's built, and that's not how it's meant to be, and it won't ever be like that.
Yeah.
For example, like I keep bringing back Naruto. You haven't watched Naruto. Granted, it's 750 episodes. It's very long, but it's also built very similarly.
Yeah.
You're introduced to a shit ton of characters right out the gate, and they all eventually play a role.
Yeah, no,
It's just when is their time?
and I trust that. I just think like, just knowing that JJK, like, I mean, like you said, they're clearly inspired a lot by shows like Naruto, like the classic shonens, like,
Yes.
and I don't know, like you said, I haven't seen Naruto, but like, I feel like knowing that that's a longer show,
Mm-hmm.
like, you need to consider when you're making the story what you're going to be doing. Like the JJK is not designed to be that long, but they're starting it as if it is designed to be that long.
See, now
Like-
when you mentioned a bit earlier that it was ending at like 140 something chapters.
That's what I heard, because I don't
When
know.
I was talking to Ted, our other friend Ted, host of Ted Culture,
Yep, you gotta check them out.
basically he was saying that that's just what they're on. He didn't even tell, and he reads the manga. He never said that they were ending it.
Because I might be mistaken, but I've seen a few like posts where it's like the end of JJK or something like that, and at 143. So maybe I'm mishearing that, or I
Yeah.
misunderstood. Maybe I'm just remembering it wrong. But from what I'm seeing, like I don't think it's ever gonna get up to, like, even if it isn't ending.
No,
now,
no.
like,
I would honestly be surprised if it had the amount of chapters as Naruto.
yeah.
I'd be surprised if it was to do that. But apparently, even if you talk to manga readers, and I've seen manga readers post on Reddit or on TikTok about it, where it's apparently they did season 1 correctly. They had it did what it was supposed to do, and everything will make sense later on, which is like what I expected of this season.
Which I mean, expect that too. I'm not.
It's just like I just can't hate on it for what's not there currently.
Yeah, well, I think it's I wouldn't even say that. I think it's one of those things that I think season 1 will appear better once we know those things.
Know everything.
But like just going based off like say that if the manga wasn't a thing and like they just were making this and like or like the mangaka was like, "Oh, I'm going to write it as an anime original thing and just leave it at that." I think then there's a lot more flaws than if then it's like it's flaws just because as a viewer you're like, well,
you don't know where it's going to go, period. Yeah. When like if we wanted to know where it goes, we could easily read the manga and then be like, "Oh shit, that all makes sense now."
Yeah.
So like I get what you're saying, but like that's why I wouldn't put it down for what's currently there and essentially just not being a manga reader, because manga readers loved it. I've heard manga readers say that, I think it was episode 20, was that the baseball episode? 21
maybe?
Yeah. That they stopped after that because they didn't want to watch it. They didn't want to live through the same pain that they did when they read it.
Yeah, which not to say, like, I don't even think that the last couple episodes of the season were painful.
Like, I wouldn't say that either.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, that you probably could have lasted through that little arc, but
like I've seen just people's reactions to like the most recent chapters, and it's insane. Like people are generally like they're at the point where an anime only would be at now, where it's like, where is it gonna go? They're at that point now in the manga, and they feel like I know that they're ending the arc in the manga currently, but I don't know if it's ending.
Yeah, well, just because I know that Yuji he has like a limited amount of time. I mean, like they did start off by in the first couple episodes saying like, when you eat all the fingers, we're killing you.
We're killing you. Yeah.
So,
which like there's a whole interesting theory that I actually read up upon about that, where you know how Yuji's grandpa like had to tell him something before like he died.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
There's a theory that his family is essentially related to Sukuna, and that's why he can harbor him. Because there's also theories that Sukuna was a human at some point, then turned cursed, which like is completely plausible for like Mahito, the patchwork guy, as well. I mean, I feel like that at least Mahito could have been answered, but people think Sukuna is like that, and essentially Yuji is just a descendant of him, and that's why he can harbor him.
Which is that's an interesting thought. I could definitely see that being it. Yeah, I mean, just getting into the theories behind it. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with it. I mean, even if it never gets to any sort of insanely good height for me, like I wouldn't mind if it just kind of stuck to kind of the feeling of the last couple episodes, where it almost turns into like kind of like a dark Scooby-Doo almost, where they're like, it's like, okay, this arc we're like, oh, we discovered word of a curse here, we have to go investigate it, and then when we find it, we fight it, kill it, and then we move on,
exercise it.
I think I wouldn't be too upset with that, but I do think that it has a lot of potential moving forward for what it could be. So.
I mean, from what I know, the next arc, which is going to be in season 2, is going to be the Shibuya arc, which apparently is a very extreme arc, a very dark arc. And then that's when Gojo called him and was like, okay, let's go do this. That's that. But then also people call when Megumi did his domain expansion, and like he had that face, and when Nobara was killing those brother curses. they actually call them like the feral versions of their character, because they essentially go into like this just dark state of where they don't care about anything, and they essentially go on a slaughter spree. And I think most characters hit that point at some point. And the movie, we're getting a movie later this year, at the end of this year rather, which takes place
before, right?
Yes, it's volume 0. So from what I read, it explains Gojo's background and his whole family, because apparently he's from a very like wealthy sorcerer family, and Megumi's father.
Yeah, which that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. Like when I saw the announcement about that, I was like, okay, that will
helpful. Explain a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost. I mean, if that ends up being good, that makes it a lot more understandable overall. Then I would feel more comfortable recommending it to somebody. I would just be like, watch
the movie,
and then watch the show. You know.
But... See, but I feel like with us watching the show first and then going on to now watch the movie when that comes out, we're gonna have this oh moment. Oh, that's why he's like that. That's why this works like this, and so on and so forth. And like personally, I'd rather have that than just start with the movie and then go into the show. But like I get why like you would tell a new watcher, hey, watch the movie, then watch the show.
With any sort of like, with this kind of show, like I usually would like consider, I guess, who the person I'm recommending it to is.
Yeah.
Like if I was recommending it to like Blast, you know, who's somebody that has watched animes.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, then if I recommend this, like he's not gonna be like put off by any of the stuff in it. He won't be confused, or he'll be like more accepting of the fact that you learn about it later.
Yep.
Where if I was gonna recommend it to somebody like Aiden, who, you know, doesn't really watch anime, you know, we're trying to get him on Attack on Titan, but other than that, he hasn't seen much. Basically, like I don't think in its current state, like without the movie first, which I don't even know if the movie will do it, but assuming that it does, I would have to recommend the movie first to him, because he would be, I could tell he would.
It would hook him in better.
Yeah.
Than if he was like left at the end of the first season with like what is this? What is this? What is that? How does this do that? And so on and so forth. But yeah, I also just really like how some of the characters are like well built. Like Nanami, like obviously there was like a lot of thought into his character about how like meticulous he is, and it shows within his ability. Like his whole ability is to essentially see the weak spot. I still think it's at 3/7 of whatever length of what he's trying to hit. That's where he hit, and it just deals more damage. Like it's just a super meticulous power. Even like Gojo, like a lot of thought was put into the abilities in it. And into the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, because I don't know if you remember at the end of the last episode, Gojo transferred 10 million yen into like one of the other sorcerers' account. It's like apparently the sorcerers get paid on by their grade, so Gojo's one of only 3 or 4 special grade sorcerers, and if at the end you notice that they recommend like Megumi, Nobara, Yuji, all for first grade.
Yeah.
Which, like, that recommendation goes that far because they make money based on their grade. What else was I gonna say? That, and in the flashback of when Gojo was young, and it was like a very little like child Megumi, and like they were having like some conversation, or whatever, in like a flashback in episode 22 or 23. Apparently, I looked into that because I was curious. Gojo was 16 at the time, and Megumi was 6. And apparently, I think that's when Megumi's father left.
Okay.
And Gojo is the one who took care of him ever since he was 16. So that's why like Megumi and Gojo are close. It's because Gojo like took care of him.
Okay.
And it's like little things like that. It's like obviously you don't know now, but you could kind of like tell their dynamic from seeing that little flashback to how they interact now with each other. And I just thought it was pretty cool. Like it's just so much thought went into it, but for us it's like we obviously need to wait.
Yeah.
And let everything kind of flesh out.
Yeah. So I do have a lot of hope for it. But yeah, I mean, reviewing it with what I have now, I already kind of said like I'm more of a, I'd say slightly above average on our scale. That would be 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we average is a 5 for us. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. But yeah, if any of you guys are the ones that are really loving it right now, and like you have it up at like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10.
It's not 9 out of 10 or
No.
10 out of 10.
No. I
No
mean,
way.
maybe if you're a manga reader, that
Okay.
bumps it up
Yeah, it'd
for
be
you.
more acceptable.
But yeah, where it's currently at, just based on the information I have, I'd say 6 out of 10. I don't know.
Yeah, I would give it more towards an 8 because I really like the shonen. Shonen's always hooked me in. I mean, it's the most popular form of not only manga but of anime for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, there's something behind it. There's always something about it that just grabs everyone and just death grip on them, yanks them in. So yeah, I've got to give it about an 8.
Yeah.
I mean, the action was great. The animation was really, really good. I loved the interactions between the characters. I mean, that whole sequence of, like, with the whole Jennifer Lawrence and Yuji.
Yeah, that was
my
funny.
best friend.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, I like that stuff. It was funny.
It was
great.
funny. Yeah.
It added to the moment. And I like the world that they're essentially, that we're learning about, that's been created. We're learning about. I really like that, and I can't wait to see what more is added to it and learning more about it. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we are going to go on a break. We're definitely going to have content for you in that supposed break. So, we'll do the break now. All right, and welcome back from that break. Maybe later on when hopefully this show grows, maybe we'll use the breaks for actual sponsorships. We'll be all like,
Ads.
hey, you guys ever heard of NordVPN? Or Raid Shadow Legends. Oh, yes, quite an amazing game. But anyway, yeah, with that aside, we're going to be talking about the first half of the final season of
Attack on
Titan. And warning, obviously spoilers for that. And if you don't remember the thing from the beginning that I'm going to put on, and maybe potential minor manga spoilers.
Not major. He's read it. I have not read it,
But
I'm planning on reading it.
Which we will, when the final chapter comes out, we are going to do like a one-time manga review of that. That's probably the only manga we're ever going to review on this show, unless it gets like, a lot of positive reviews.
A lot of traction.
But other than that, we're probably never doing that again. But yeah, basically we're going to do that, so look out for that. But anyway, talking about just the first half of the final season.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
So I actually managed. I didn't think I was going to be able to write notes for this because so much happened, but I actually managed to write some notes on this. I'll first start off with just Eren alone. Let's start off with him, his development, his change over the course of the 4-year time skip. It was a lot of change.
Yes, it was.
To change within that time, a lot. He obviously he had done a lot of thinking about everything, and he grasped onto the ideals and morals that he'd gotten. Extreme. Like, one main thing that I saw was, if you look at his Titan from the first season, where his eyes are very vibrant and very green, to his eyes in the last episode, they were just dull and gray. That just goes to show that he has no guilt, no remorse.
Yeah.
He's not holding back.
Yeah, which
upon anything.
I mean, and not to say that you didn't start seeing signs of it. I mean, in the last episode of season 3, after literally from the moment he kisses Historia's hand, he acts different.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the last scene, when they're going up, like for instance, the part when they see that fat ass Titan, and then they're like, oh, we should kill it. And he's just kind of like, no, that's one of our comrades, kind of.
That's one of us.
Or obviously later on when he's like, yeah, there's a sea, and beyond the sea is freedom. Yeah, that's what I thought, but nope. What if we kill all of our enemies over there? He starts to show that it's not too crazy, but it is interesting. Once you get the scenes that start to, or the episodes that explain what happened in between that time, you start to see how his drastic change went. Now, obviously, we still don't even know if this is confirmed, like, from manga. I'm not even gonna say it, but like basically, there's a chance, depending on how they end it, that all of this change will make sense. It depends on if they want to go like the Jaegerist route or the not Jaegerist route, like the more positive-ish melancholy type ending. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can even see his development through the people as titans. Like he's devoured, like Grisha, Ymir, or not Ymir. What's her name?
Frida.
Frida.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know why I said Ymir. And even Willie's sister. Like he would do different things and like adapt to like essentially who he would devour. I mean, he bit his hand just like Frida, but then once he got Kruger's memories, from Grisha and so on, he started cutting his hand.
Yeah.
With the knife.
I mean, not to say that like, I mean that's kind of like slightly more of a symbolistic thing. Like, yeah, it doesn't really matter how you do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like his development, but like it just goes to show how the people, how the past Titan users like essentially affect you and change you in multiple ways. And even after he devoured Willie's sister, he like threw his hair back.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah, and I mean it's a very, I mean it is interesting just seeing how, I mean, first of all, the fact that he realizes, like I think deep down, regardless of like what his true thoughts are, how it'll end, I think he kind of knows that Armin is right, but I think he doesn't care, like because, the scene with Reiner where he's like yeah, you guys are just like me in a way, like you wanted to do what you're gonna do to save the world, like even though it was horrible, then you later found out that they're regular people, they're not devils.
Yep.
Just like how I, through living in Marley, now know that the Marleyans aren't as evil as I thought they were. Like most of them are just regular people. It's the people at the top. Just like how it is in real life. I mean, like we always, we'll have a war and we're like, oh, screw all those people in that country. But most of them are just regular people living their lives just like us. And, but ultimately, which, Armin, he recognizes that he doesn't want anyone fighting. He just wants peace.
Yep.
I thinks that's the best way to go about it. Where Eren, I think, yeah, he realizes that, and I think he does agree, but I think at the same time, he realizes that that's a little bit optimistic.
Yeah.
And he's like, he has to take the path he's gonna take to try to have the best outcome for his friends. It's just interesting because he's like, I think he does genuinely feel bad. Like I have to kill these people in order to have my friends be free. Like I wish that Armin's ideal world could exist where everyone could just say, hey, let's all just be happy.
I mean, but then that leads into just the morals of the three characters. I mean, we've talked about this before of Zeke, Eren, and Armin's. I mean, Armin's is definitely the most optimistic, where he does believe that life is meaningless, but we give it meaning through memory and the bonds we make. Then there's Eren, meaning that, our freedom is taken from birth by morality, and we have to dismantle that morality to then gain that freedom back.
Yeah.
Which is, essentially what he's trying to do. And then there's Zeke, where it's essentially we're suffering since we're born, and the only way to be free of that is to die.
Be born.
Or to not be born at all.
Which, I mean, it is interesting, because, I mean, my personal view on philosophy is not necessarily like, I mean, in most cases, you're not really trying to figure out what you want to actually achieve. You're looking at what you'd ideally strive for.
Yeah.
Like, because, I mean, most of these things, like, if I'm sitting there saying, like, hey, I want to live a life where, like, I just, look for happiness, I enjoy other people's company and stuff, have an enriched life like that.
Yeah.
You don't really get that with philosophy. It's like, yes, this is my goal, but I'm not going to have a life free of pain. There's going to be horrible things that happen.
You're going to go through tragedies.
I'm going to have struggle, like
struggles.
But like the idea, like you're always there, it's like an unreachable point to strive towards. Which I mean,
Yeah.
which not to say like Attack on Titan does have that theme too, like the
Yeah.
idea of like
Oh, definitely.
it's better to die right before achieving your goal than to actually achieve
Exactly.
it.
You see that with Armin and Erwin.
Yeah.
Erwin was happy trying to chase his goal. Meanwhile, after, and I was going to lead into that next, that Armin is now essentially suffering that he like achieved his goal, but there's nothing essentially for him to look forward to, which then leads to how that represents in his Colossal Titan.
Yeah, and I think it's, I mean, and not to say that like I think there's a path that they could take, with which obviously like they kind of hint at this in the anime, so I don't think this is too bad if I say it, but if you don't want any sort of manga spoiler stuff, skip a little bit ahead, probably about however much. I'll timestamp it. Yeah, that's probably the way to go. And yeah, so basically with that spoiler warning out of the way, they hint at the fact that Armin now has feelings for Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and later on in the manga, she reciprocates. I mean, it doesn't so far like they haven't. It's kind of like, you know, they're still kind of like a will they won't they situation,
Yeah.
but she does have feelings, and now that like she has feelings because he was the only person that like ever thought of her as a good person, like you know
he saw the light within her.
Yeah, like everyone else thought she was kind of like a jerk, or they thought that she was just like quiet, not really just
like an
cold.
asshole,
yeah,
a cold person.
And she thought of herself that way, and like you know, especially like you think about when that moment happened, the thing she had just done, she just killed Marco essentially. She just took off his ODM gear and watched him get eaten.
Yep.
And then to have this nice guy over here say like, hey, you're actually a really nice person, like that hit the core, and then that's why she's like, hey, I'm not gonna kill you,
not gonna kill you,
but everyone else. And then like she's genuinely hurt when like then he sees her as a monster. But then through getting Bertolt's memories, he then and now some people think he's like being controlled, like Eren kind of suggested. I think it's more just like the memories, like he's like, oh, that's what she's really like, or like, oh, now I know
the memories
more.
just kind of add to what is already there.
Yeah, like it's not like he's, or it's more like, you know, if you saw some random person, you didn't know anything about them, you wouldn't have feelings for them. But if you then suddenly were given all these memories about them and you knew everything about them, maybe you'd be like, oh, they have like a cool personality, I'm into them, like you know. So essentially that's what it is. Like now he was kind of given that little nudge from the memories. They have feelings, and so getting back to the whole point of why I said any of that, I do think that there's a chance that like now he's just gonna live like a contempt life, like, you know, just like with her, and they'll just be happy, like and his philosophy is ultimately gonna win, even though it is idealistic, because it's supposed to be like you strive for this, but you're not gonna actually achieve it.
Yeah,
or at least you're not gonna fully ever achieve it. It's impossible.
I mean, even still, that definitely represents within his Titan. His Titan is very depressed looking, and his Titan doesn't have ears.
Yeah.
And that's all to be said, that he doesn't want to hear the screams of his victims.
Yeah. Well,
whenever he turns into a Titan.
Well, it's sad too, because I mean, you think like, you know, Armin is the most peaceful one out of all of them, yet he got the most destructive Titan.
Yep.
Like.
Yeah. It's all within his character, about like how he works, and it's just so interesting. And then that leads me to the third. We already talked about Eren and Armin. Is now Zeke.
Yeah.
Right. Such an interesting character. You all, at least at this point now, like everyone hated him in the beginning when you saw him in season 3. You know, I mean, he killed my favorite character, even though Zeke is now also one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, learning about his backstory and about how Grisha and Dinah treated him, and how Cassandra kind of saved him from that.
Yeah.
Literally, like, Cassandra just essentially was like, you need to save yourself. Like, your parents are too far gone at this point. Save yourself and complete what is now essentially their goal.
Yeah.
It's Cassandra's, and Zeke adapted that goal.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean that whole episode I thought was really well done. Now, of course, like I had read the manga, you know, so I knew I knew that that was going to happen, but I definitely think that anime does a better job at portraying a lot of things. Like the manga gets you the story, the anime makes it like work a lot better. In my opinion, at least. Like,
I think it raises emotions.
yeah, well, like
too.
you get
got
the
a better
music,
feeling.
you get someone actually saying the line. It's not like, well, or even with action too, like manga action, like I can't even look at it half the time because I can't tell what's going on because it's just like a lot happening. But like when it's colored and everything, it's a lot easier to see.
And it's doing essentially the work for you. It's just like, wow, like that's great. But yeah, Zeke's character and about how he evolved and whatever into the person he is now, trying to work with Eren. See, he wants, obviously Zeke probably thinks that Eren is working towards the same goal, but Eren obviously has his own plans, and he's just essentially using Zeke to get what he wants. But he now obviously has some sort of bond with his brother, because they essentially are like the burden. They each have burdens that Grisha put upon them, and they both essentially bond over that.
Yeah,
Which is an interesting sibling dynamic between the two, because they obviously met up and spent time together when Eren was in Marley. Like, that all goes to show something.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see when you read the chapter with like those two in the in the paths, just because that further does that kind of development.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a very I mean, this season so far, well, obviously this half of the season, I think, I mean, there's literally nothing that I can say that was wrong with it, except for maybe minor complaint was that the episodes that explained the 4-year gap, like what happened,
it was spotty.
It was a little jumpy. Like they didn't do a great job at distinguishing, like, okay, now we're going to the past again, like whenever they jump between. Because like it
was just kind of like here then there, then like back to here, but then it was like a year from that point you just saw, and then they go back to like the year prior. It was just a bit all over the place.
I mean, you could see, like, with the context clues, like you could look and say, like, okay, that's what their hair looks like, that something like that. Like I can tell when this is taking place, but like you couldn't tell going into the scene when it was going to be. So then like it would take you a little bit to realize, like, oh, they're in this time, and then at that point you miss some of like what they said, and then you have to go back, and it was a little difficult. But other than that, yeah, this season so far has been great, obviously. And
yeah, I mean, I'm about to ask one of the great old questions of the show. It's like, now, put what you've read in the manga aside, did you think choosing Armin was the correct choice, just based off of seeing season 4 part 1? Because personally, what you think? I think Erwin. Now, at the time, I was all for Armin. I wanted Armin to be the one chosen at that point in time. Even though Erwin was my favorite character, I thought Armin was still the better choice. But now, like, looking back on it after seeing this first part, I think Erwin would have been the better choice. And I mean, it's pretty much agreed upon most viewers and manga readers that if Erwin was chosen, Erwin would have been a Jaegerist.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, I know for a fact that, I can't remember, was this said? Because that's the thing, now I have, like, there's certain character moments that I can't remember if they were already in the anime yet. I mean, because I know that, like, Erwin did see something in Armin.
Yes.
And I think it's tough because, like, I know stuff that happens.
You're trying to work around that. Yeah, exactly. That's why I wanted to see what you think based just on the first part of the final season.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm trying to, because I should say I caught up on the manga like a couple weeks ago. Like so up until that point, yeah, I mean, I could see someone saying that. I mean, there's also like where I go into my own philosophy, which I do that all the time with this show. I can't just like...
You can't take it as it is.
Yeah, I can't separate it. I mean, like, because... Or I can't
I do the same on a similar level, but I feel like I kind of resonate more with what's happening. I'm a darker person, so
Well,
it tends to be on more.
I mean, because
because
I know people who like would normally share my philosophy on war who are supporting Eren.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I'm not, because like I can't separate the two. Like that's just how I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
But I mean, because let's see, like I do agree. Like if somebody wants to die,
Yeah.
which Erwin kind of did. Like it was a little. Like,
It was Levi's choice technically because he's the one who kind of pushed him towards that.
but you know, I mean, Erwin did he did the thing where he like raised his hand, and smacked it out of the way. Like you know,
Yeah.
I think he at that point he was like, yeah, I'd rather just die and like
Die here,
not have to
honorably.
Yeah, because I mean, he had a serious burden in his life. Like you're not.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a struggle, or his whole life was difficult in that sense, and yeah, I think it. Just keeping that in mind, like where Armin at that point didn't have any burdens, really. I mean, he killed like one person at that point. It
Yeah,
was like
at
some
that point.
rando.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, he didn't on Kenny's squad. I mean that.
Mhm.
So otherwise, like, I mean, and that was to defend his friends. Like you know
that was more justified in a sense.
Yeah, like it wasn't like how Erwin would just. I mean, and not to say that Erwin had a valid reason for every choice he made.
Yeah.
But like you know, obviously, there's still tough choices. Like even as a leader, when you have to make a choice that isn't going to be popular, that people aren't going to like obviously that's difficult when you're. But like you know, he has the ability to make it. But obviously, you know, I think I don't know. I'm just thinking like for Erwin's sake, I'm happy that Armin was chosen.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, with the manga stuff,
Which I agree with you upon that.
I know that from, yeah, I know that like with the manga stuff, I feel better about it. It's still like some people don't feel that way. They feel like it still should have been Erwin.
Yeah.
I feel like with the last chapter, depending on if they show any of like if they show anything that happens later, like if they do like sort of an epilogue sequence where they show like where the character's at now, if any of them survive.
Yeah.
I mean, because who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe they all die.
You never know. I mean, Isayama always says that he wants to like make a pool out of his readers and watchers' tears.
Yeah.
So
I
you
mean,
never know. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a situation where like, I mean, basically like, because I think the only person that like anime people, this isn't really a spoiler because it's in the anime. Armin is probably gonna survive because he's the.
That's
narrator.
what I think too.
And that's been hinted at like in the second opening. There's a thing where like he's standing there with all the blood like around him. He's the only one there, and then it cuts to a shot of a bunch of candles, and then it turns into one.
Mm-hmm.
So and then in that the line when translated, it says like even if I'm the last one standing.
Yeah.
So he's probably gonna live, but maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah,
But
who knows?
he might. He probably will. And I could see a situation where like he ends up then leading whoever's left. Like he becomes like the leader that leads humanity into the future.
Yeah.
Which I think would be all right. Like, I think that would be a good end for him.
And it'd give him way more of a new purpose.
But then you think like when Eren was like, the person who saves humanity isn't going to be Erwin. It's not going to be me. It's going to be Armin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it will be, and if that's what happens. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, that's not confirmed. You know, no, but it's just something that I think could happen. And if that did, like, I'm not basically ignoring like your stipulation about it being this part only.
Mm-hmm.
Like with what I know with the manga, I can't answer that question until it's done.
Until it's over. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is completely valid. And when I read it, I'm gonna say the same thing.
Yeah. But there are some moments that you might find interesting. Like
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, and then I guess the thing I wanted to talk about was how I didn't really think that the CGI was that bad.
It wasn't that bad. No,
Yeah,
I mean, people just had their expectations way too high.
Well, I think you and I were talking about this during before the show, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think some people, and now obviously, like, would I have preferred 2D Titans? Yes.
Yeah.
Like they look better. There's no denying that. But
which in some scenes they did do it that way.
Yeah, which is better. Whenever that happens, I promise you it is better, and I would prefer that completely.
Yeah.
But like you have to keep in mind, all right, like these people, they made it on short notice. They didn't have that much time. There's a global pandemic happening,
and they had multiple earthquakes going on in the district they were in Japan.
And it's like, I mean, the fact that they got it out at all should be good. We have to keep in mind that they do polish things up for the Blu-ray, so they could fix it at some point if they wanted to.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even if like 2 years from now, when it's all done, they could go back and like remaster those episodes a little bit if there was a demand for it. If they thought that like there would be money to be made from the Blu-rays, maybe they will. But I think like, be more thankful that the story is happening. If you're an anime only, would you have wanted to wait 4 years again?
Because that was hell. I mean, I know I waited those 4 years. I don't know about you.
Well, I did. Yeah.
I waited those 4 years, and it got to the point where I literally forgot about the damn show.
Yeah.
And then when there's like, oh, season 2 was out, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
About time.
Yeah. I mean that, and I mean that's kind of sad in a way. Like it would have been, well, because season 2 ended 2 days before my dad died, so he got to see up to season 2.
Yeah.
And then didn't, none of the. I mean, season 3 I think is the best season still.
Same.
So, I mean, maybe that'll change.
Yeah.
But
it definitely could change.
yeah. I mean, it might. I think there's some cool stuff that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it basically, like that kind of wait is ridiculous. A lot can happen in that amount of time. Like I said, I mean, I read the manga and I caught up because I'm the type. I have this like fear of losing or like dying before the end of a story.
I'm the same way. I like to end. I like to know it all.
So like, if I had to wait 4 years when I was anime only, I would have really struggled to wait.
Yeah.
Which
it would, like, I feel like with me it would become like right before I go to sleep, it pops in my mind, and then I can't stop thinking about like, oh, when is it gonna happen? When is it gonna finish?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
And of course, like oh man, even with the manga, like I mean, literally, I've only been waiting, or I read it within between the time when 138 came out and now 139 is gonna come out, and this wait has been horrible because it's a monthly manga.
That's why I waited. So, that's literally the reason why I waited for the anime to end, and now I have 2 weeks just to read the manga.
The only reason that I mean, really, the reason that I kept reading is because I got very into the Armin and Annie thing.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I'll go full out. I'm not one who normally ships anime characters, but those two, just from like a purely I want the two of them to be happy sort of thing.
Yeah.
I want them together. But like that's why I read, because I kept seeing like more moments, because at first I thought it was only one scene, and then I saw more and more, and I'm like, okay, yeah, they're really going hard on that. Like I didn't think it. I thought it was like a side plot thing.
They like pushed it.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even use push. Like, it's just basically every chapter, except for 138, kind of has like a moment from like 131 to the end, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway. So like that's why I read ahead. If I hadn't, I probably would have waited until now. But I mean, literally, like I don't understand how you guys did that. Like if you were manga readers from the beginning, like a month wait every time is dreadful. Like it's bad enough waiting a week back when like those cliffhangers would happen.
Yeah.
A month was it's tough.
Like exactly what you mean, because now I'll just mention with like My Hero. They're on like the final act or arc, whatever, however it was worded, of My Hero, and then My Hero is gonna end, and apparently Deku like did some shit. I was like, as an anime only, I'm like, damn, like thank God they at least come out with a season every year and they progress a decent amount.
Yeah.
But like I was like, damn, like that's still gonna be like 3 years until that happens, and I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
They keep going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're going to take another break with a sponsorship for you guys. Woohoo! No sponsorship. We're stupid.
Yeah.
See you guys in a few minutes. Well, for you, it'll be 2 seconds. All right, I lied about that break because turns out we had nothing else to talk about. We don't compare notes before, so you have the genuine conversation here.
Yep.
So, anyway, yeah, with that, if you made it all the way to the end, you got to subscribe. We do episodes every week. Next week, we're not too sure what we're going to do.
Yeah, we're not sure.
So, if you want to know what we're going to do before the episode, we'll post it on Instagram. you know. So follow our Instagrams currently, 30330 podcast, but ignore that. It's gonna be different. All the information
working on the change.
It'll be in the description when the time's there. And yeah. So like we said, subscribe. Look forward to next week. Hopefully we'll have a name. Probably not though, because we're lazy sons of bitches.
Yeah, we're slow as hell.
Yeah, we might get to the point where this whole unknown thing just kind of catches
sticks.
on. Like, yeah,
just sticks. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So with that, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. It's been a great conversation, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.